Denny Hamlin says 2311 Racing has secured a charter for Kurt Busch next season, but he won't say where they got it from. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. This whole week feels off, but I guess that's what Monday races will do. If you missed it yesterday, I reacted to Bubba Wallace's historic Talladega win. Today, we're catching up on some of the other stories from this past weekend that went fairly unnoticed. But before we get to those, this episode is sponsored by Swan Security Systems. Swan, of course, makers of the Enforcer, the ultimate home security system equipped with 4K video cameras, with motion detection and blue and red flashing police lights and sirens to ward off any potential intruders. It's easy to check in on any of your camera's live feed at any time using the Swan mobile app. And if you're looking for a more convenient portable option, check out the Swan Extreme security camera. I have one set up right outside my front door. Again, it's easy to check in live anytime. The battery lasts up to 6 months. It comes equipped with a micro SD card, but also features free cloud video storage, and the same goes for the Enforcer, actually. Swan is leading the pack in home security, and fans of the show can get a special discount. If you head to swan.com down in the description and use code GROOVE at checkout, you can get 15% off your order. Be sure to take advantage of that special offer. Thank you to Swan Security for sponsoring Out of the Groove. Now let's get to the news. There are only a couple of things I want to talk about today because, quite frankly, today's news cycle is still buzzing around Bubba Wallace's big victory yesterday. It was a front page on ESPN, Fox Sports. Lewis Hamilton was posting about Bubba Wallace, so he got a lot of people's attention. I already said all there really is to say about Bubba Wallace's win in yesterday's video, so if you want to hear about that, go check that video out. So today we're going to talk about a couple other interesting quotes and sound bites from Talladega this past weekend. First off, if you're hoping to go see the Cup Series championship race at Phoenix, I hope you already got your tickets because Bob Pockrass reported this weekend that the Cup Series race at Phoenix in a few weeks is sold out officially. Phoenix Raceway seats around 40,000 fans. That's not including the people who set up on Rattlesnake Hill or the infield experience, which is really cool. I did a video on that last year. You should also check out. As you can see, there are still tickets available for the Xfinity and Truck Series championship races earlier in the weekend, but good to see at least that the Cup race is sold out a few weeks in advance. Again, the capacity at Phoenix is not, the same as Daytona or Talladega or Charlotte, but it's still good to see the stands full for a Cup Series race regardless. Now, I've been one of the biggest fans of NASCAR moving the championship weekend to Phoenix. I want to make it clear that I love Homestead Miami Speedway, and I actually think Homestead Miami is a more consistently entertaining racetrack. But with NASCAR fans, broadly speaking, falling somewhat out of love with mile and a halves, and with Phoenix Raceway recently renovating the entire facility, which again is very nice, I have no problem with NASCAR moving the championship weekend to Phoenix. It'll be there this year, it'll be there next year at least as well. Eventually, I'd love to see them go back to Homestead Miami Speedway, or maybe a couple other venues, like maybe a Darlington gets a championship race. I think that would be spectacular as well. But for the time being, I actually like Phoenix being the championship race. Not for 20 years. I don't think it'll last for 20 years, but for a few years here, this little run as we enter the next gen era, I'm fine with the newly revamped Phoenix being the championship weekend. In fact, I'm more than fine. I support it. I think it's actually a pretty good decision. I know a lot of people disagree with me there. I still think Homestead Miami is a better track, but I like mixing things up a little bit. Fans have been asking to mix up the championship weekend for years now, and what are we, in year 2 of Phoenix being the championship and people are already mad about it? Like, come on, y'all, give it a couple more years before we rotate again. That's all I ask. I am excited though that Homestead Miami is getting a playoff date once again on next year's schedule. That's pretty cool. Now, 2311 Racing made all the headlines this weekend, winning their first ever race as a race team. But before we took the green flag on Monday, Denny Hamlin, co-owner of 2311 Racing, said some interesting things Sunday when speaking to the media. According to reports, Denny Hamlin told the media that both a charter for the number 45 2311 Racing team and a crew chief for Kurt Busch are set. No further details shared. Well, he did give a little more detail. Again, he didn't say who the crew chief was or where he's getting the charter from. We'll talk about that in a second. But he did say that the crew chief Kurt Busch will be working with next year is someone that Kurt Busch is familiar with. So take that for what it's worth. Get my mind racing. I mean, my first thought was maybe Matt McCall, who's Kurt Busch's current crew chief at Chip Ganassi. Of course, Chip Ganassi's shutting down next year. Maybe Matt McCall follows Kurt Busch over to 2311. I mean, he's obviously familiar with the guy he's worked with for the last 3 years and won 3 races with. But I'm not sure Matt McCall would be the leading candidate candidate for that seat. Before he worked with Kurt Busch, he spent 4 years at Chip Ganassi with Jamie McMurray, and they didn't win any races together. They had some kind of disappointing seasons in that mix as well. What about a guy like Tony Gibson, who Kurt Busch worked with during some of his tenure at Stewart-Haas Racing? Tony Gibson was crew chief for Kurt Busch back then, but stepped away from crew chiefing at least at the end of the 2017 season. At the time, he said he wanted to spend more time with his family off the road. So I don't think it's likely Tony Gibson and Kurt Busch reunite, but 2311 just signed Booty Barker, brought Booty Barker back into a crew chiefing role just a few weeks ago. So if they can do that, I think nobody's off the table. And speaking of Booty Barker, we don't even know. I know he just won a race with Bubba Wallace and just their third start together, but we don't know for sure if Booty Barker is the permanent crew chief for Bubba Wallace next season. They have not officially announced that to my knowledge. Does 2311 have their eye on somebody else to be Bubba's permanent crew chief? Maybe Booty Barker moves over and works with Kurt Busch next season? I don't know. I bet if Jerry Baxter's available, he's still over at Richard Petty Motorsports, I'm sure 2311 Racing would be interested there, because Baxter and Bubba seem to be pretty good, especially their last year at the 43 together. But I don't know that he's going to be available, so maybe Booty stays with the 23, no idea. So I don't know who Kurt Busch could land. Maybe Cole Pearn. What if Cole Pearn comes back to Toyota? I don't know if they could do that, but I don't know what it would take to coerce Cole Pearn away from his ski resort in Canada or whatever he runs now, but maybe that's possible. Anyway, I'm just spitballing here, having some fun with it. Whoever it is, Denny Hamlin is being very vague at the moment, so we'll see who works with Kurt Busch next season. That's going to be very important, almost as important as getting Kurt Busch to drive that car in the first place. But the second part of that quote from Denny Hamlin is that they've apparently secured a charter for next season. That's been the ongoing saga for months now. Could 2311 actually get a second charter alongside the one they have for the 23? Denny Hamlin now says that a deal is done. They do in fact have another charter next season, a charter for the 45 team, but where did they get it from? That's the big question, because there's only 36 charters in existence, in circulation. So if 2311's getting one, that means they're taking one from somebody else, or somebody else is selling it to them. They're not just breaking in and stealing someone's charter in the dead of night. No, it's a voluntary transaction, but the point is they're getting the charter from somebody else. Now, recent reports have said they've been in negotiation with Front Row Motorsports, who owns two charters right now, the 34, driven by Michael McDowell, and the 38, driven by rookie Anthony Alfredo. According to recent reports, Front Row Motorsports has been in deep discussions with 2311 Racing about selling one or both of their charters. So given those trends, I think it's likely that Denny Hamlin and 2311 Racing bought one of Front Row Motorsports' charters, which means next season, presumably, Front Row will no longer be a two-car team. They will likely be a one-car team, right? And you gotta imagine Michael McDowell will be the driver, right? I mean, he just won a Daytona 500, technically made the playoffs. I mean, no disrespect to Anthony Alfredo. I love Anthony Alfredo, but he's a rookie, and only this past weekend did he get his first ever top 10 of the season. I think they'd lean towards McDowell, a road course racer who I think is excited about the next gen. That seems like the future of Front Row Motorsports, right? Well, not so fast, because I read an article this weekend from Bob Pockrass at Fox Sports talking about the upcoming next-gen Charlotte Roval test that pretty much every team will be participating in. That's very exciting. But in this article, Bob Pockrass says that Front Row Motorsports is not expected to attend the test. Meanwhile, pretty much every other Cup Series team, including the 66 team, Carl Long's team, will be there. So, does this mean Front Row sold both of their charters? Are they officially selling out? Are they abandoning their Cup Series program after this season? Did 2311 buy not one but two charters off Front Row? Now my head's scratching a little. I'm sorry, Front Row Motorsports fans, but things don't look great regarding the team's Cup Series future, especially when you consider last month Michael McDowell told the media that he does not have a plan for next year and has no idea what options will be available to him, but that he wanted to return to Front Row, but it was out of his hands. Maybe they're just behind on building the next gen. Maybe they were thinking about selling both of their charters, and so they were delayed building them, and so they're just not able to make this test. They'll be at the next one. Maybe that's it. Maybe we're all overreacting, but the combination of stories this weekend that Denny Hamlin has bought a charter, considering the rumors that they've been talking to Front Row, and now this report that Front Row will not be at the first big multi-team test, signs seem to indicate that Front Row will not have a Cup Series program next year, or at the very least not a full-time one. Now that's not to say Front Row Motorsports will be out of NASCAR entirely. They did open up a Truck Series team a couple of years ago, and they've been pretty competitive with Todd Gilliland as their driver. Maybe Front Row Motorsports continues to focus their efforts on the Truck Series, maybe even they consider an Xfinity Series run, who knows? knows? Maybe the upfront costs associated with the next gen car were a bit too daunting to Front Row Motorsports, and they figure now's the time to sort of cash out. That's the one plus of the charter system, is that now teams have a valuable asset that, instead of depreciating in value, seems to appreciate in value. It seems to get more and more valuable every single year. That's what Chip Ganassi talked about. He wasn't planning to sell his team to Trackhouse, but once they put up an offer mainly for those charters, I think Chip Ganassi's eyes got wide and said, oh, maybe now's a good time to consider it. That's what Dale Earnhardt Jr. said as well. You'll say what you will about the charter system, and I agree, there are some issues that arise with the charter system. The one thing it does that team owners and industry insiders really like is that it gives team owners something valuable that they can sell. In the past, if you shut down your race team, all you had to sell were things that typically go down in value after they get used more and more, but charters, they go up in value. At least they seem to be right now. Again, reports were that Trackhouse may have paid upwards of $10 million a piece for Chip Ganassi Racing's charters. That's legit money. So maybe now's the time for Front Row Motorsports to bow out of the NASCAR Cup Series. If so, I must admit I'll be very disappointed, because I feel like the next gen car is built to benefit teams like Front Row Motorsports the most. A team that's not bad. I mean, they have a Daytona 500 win this year, but they're certainly not as competitive as even the other Ford teams. But the next gen, a spec car, spec chassis, supposed to bridge the gap, even the playing field a little bit for teams like Front Row. And Front Row Motorsports has Michael McDowell as their driver, who, as I mentioned, has a strong road course racing background. He's expressed his excitement to drive the next gen next year. He feels like that fits his driving style. So with 5 road courses in the regular season next year, a very good shot that Michael McDowell, combined with the next gen car, could nab a win at one of them and lock your team into the playoffs, and that would be huge. So I feel like the next gen car and next year's schedule and everything lines up really well for Front Row Motorsports. So if they do in fact shut down their Cup Series operation or sell much of the assets to 23XI or to other teams, I'll be disappointed for sure. We'll see. Did they sell both charters to 23XI, or maybe they sold both to 23XI and they're going to lease one out to another team? Who knows where these charters are going? Maybe this is all an overreaction. Maybe Front Row will still race next year. Maybe they didn't sell any of their charters to 23XI. Maybe this is like the Petty Ware charter or something that 23XI bought. We don't know, but I'm speculating based on context clues that we've been given over the past several weeks. Leave your comment down below. What do you think? Where do you think Hamlin got this charter from? What do you think about Front Row Motorsports' future? Who do you think Kurt Busch's crew chief will be or should be next season? Leave a comment down below. That's all I've got for this episode of Out of the Groove. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel. We talk NASCAR rumors, news, reactions, much more every single day here at Out of the Groove. As always, a huge thank you to my amazing Patreon supporters as well. Couldn't do the show without your tremendous support, so I greatly appreciate it. Lots more to talk about this week before the Roval. I will see you all again very, very soon. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, folks.